So we've sadly lost Morecambe and Carlisle United from the Football League Two. Very well supported clubs in their different ways, who I think will be missing from the Football League for differing amounts of time. I imagine we'll see Carlisle return in the next couple of years, whereas Morecambe could be set for a bit more of a substantial rebuild if they can rid themselves of Jason Whittingham's ownership regime. But with those two relegation spots confirmed, the focus in League Two is who's exiting the division the right way rather than the wrong way, because both the automatic promotion race is still up for grabs in terms of one spot, and the playoffs are still up for grabs in terms of two, while the title race provides an attractive sideshow, if you like, with Doncaster Rovers and Port Vale vying for top honours. So plenty to get stuck into ahead of the final day on this League Two podcast. Yes, welcome along to EFL Debate. You can do us a massive favour by getting subscribed to us on YouTube and on Spotify if you enjoy what we do over here. Delighted to be joined for now by my co-hosts for the evening, Ed Walker, an expert on all things fourth tier, and Chris Windsor, Bradford City fan from the 1911 podcast. Good evening, Ed. I bet you're on cloud nine after Burton Albion secured another season in League One, the great escape specialists.
There was you thinking you were going to have me on this permanently for next year, Gab.
I know, yeah.
Thinking you were going to have some skin in the game. No, I'm still neutral in this division. You can't help it.
So I was wondering, Ed, how do you see the playoff scramble we'll start with? Because we are going to be joined by Tim Hansen from the Player Lane by Numbers in a moment. But in terms of the playoff scramble, there's 5 teams going for 2 spots. How do you see it playing out on the final day?
I'd start by saying, look, the promotion race is quite good. I think the best part of this day is probably going to be that playoff race. Just because I kind of think the promotion race is going to be a procession. It's my gut feeling on that. Maybe we'll find some. Chris is smirking a bit because he doesn't want to get ahead of himself there. I know. The playoff race, I think, is good because we've got, as you say, 2 spots available, 5 teams, and the fact that 2 of them are playing each other, Grimsby Wimbledon. It's essentially a case of one gets it and the other one doesn't. I really like that twist in there. You know, there's a hypothetical situation here where Wimbledon currently sits 6th in what you think on paper is the favourable position. They could actually end up missing out. If they lose to Grimsby and Salford also win, they drop out completely. And there is that possibility of that with them being away at Blundell Park and what seems to be a sellout Blundell Park. And you've got a Chesterfield side who we've talked about as the what if of this season, what could they have done without their injuries? And yet here they are still within mathematical reach of doing it if they get a win. And a Colchester side that have got to win, I think, home to Barrow to have any single chance of getting in there at all. So that's where I feel my gut feeling is that the twist will come on this final day. And it's not an easy one to call. That Grimsby Wimbledon game, I think, is probably the standout fixture of maybe the entire day. Not Doncaster, maybe deserves to mention that too.
Yeah, certainly does. Well, great time to be joined by Tim Hansen from the Player Lane by Numbers podcast Twitter account. I'm used to saying podcast there. Tim, how do you feel? It's sort of a dangerous psychology, you could say, that Wimbledon are going to Blundell Park with, because you know that a draw would guarantee you a playoff spot. But I almost feel like in a weird way, you'd rather know you've got to win, because it means that you don't slip into the mindset of conservatism and what we have we hold, because you kind of, you play your natural game, whereas thinking, we've got a draw might do it. That could be quite dangerous in a way.
Yeah, I Gab. I think I think what a lot of Wimbledon fans will tell you that conservatism and maybe setting up for a 0-0 maybe is our natural game. We try to keep games tight, try to kind of nick something and then keep it tight again. That's kind of what we've done all season, and it worked for a spell, but less so recently. So I kind of agree with you that it's a lot clearer if you need to go and you need to kind of get the 3 points and you know exactly what you need to do. I mean, I remember when we stayed up many years ago at home to Fleetwood in League Two, it was kind of win and stay up, anything else and go down. And it really helped sort of clarify the situation. But yeah, it is a bit of a weird mindset, but I kind of think it's not going to look that different to any of our games. It'll probably be cagey. A fair chance it'll be 0-0 at half time. Like half our league games this season have been 0-0 at half time, so nothing unusual there. And I feel like going into the later stages, it'll probably be in the balance either way. So yeah, it's certainly going to be a nervy one, and yeah, very tough to call, I think.
It has that real feel of just being massively affected by permutations. We might find, for instance, that Salford are messing up at Carlisle and Grimsby know they're in with a point anyway, and we could just kind of peter it out towards the end. It's the fascination. It's why I think it's a standout game at this final day, just because of the fact that it's two in a theoretical situation where one could knock the other out of it, just because of how.
Yeah, it feels like a kind of almost like a playoff quarterfinals almost, doesn't it? It's almost kind of starting the playoffs here. So yeah, and there is that, needing to keep an eye on other results a little bit as well. I think we have to go in with the assumption that either, so for us, we're looking at the at the Chesterfield and the Salford games, but you have to looking at kind of who they're playing. They're both away, aren't they? So it's not easy, and I feel like Accrington pull results out of the bag sometimes, and Carlisle probably have a bit of pride to play for maybe, and actually been in decent form recently. So I don't think it's cut and dried that one of those two teams will definitely win. But it's a strong likelihood, and if that happens, then yeah, we kind of need the point. And yeah, for Grimsby, it's tough as well because a draw probably might not be enough, but it's sort of hard to say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tim, there's that added point as well for yourselves, and I suppose for others in the playoff race. You surely want the win more just to give yourselves a little lift ahead of this, because it feels like we're in such a favourable position to get playoffs. But even still, we kind of discussed this just before we started, that actually a lot of the teams who are going to be in this playoffs aren't really going to be in the best nick. I think is it one win the last 8? I think is it a similar kind of run for that for Wimbledon? It's not been that strong.
Yeah. I think we've maybe got 2 in the last 10 or something. It depends where you have the cutoff. But I mean, over the last 20 games, I think we've had 26 points. So it's not been great for a while. We've not scored in the last 3 games or 3.5 games. The last goal we scored first half against Doncaster just before Jake Reeves got sent off. And since then, we've not scored and really not created any decent chances almost since then. Not giving that much away, but managed to kind of concede from every shot we faced.
Is there kind of that feeling then that even if you do get in, which is great, is it almost kind of, well, we're in, and now we've actually got to face it, and you realise that's quite daunting in itself just because of the recent form?
Yeah, I don't think there's a lot of positivity about plenty of negativity, I'd say. So I think that the general view is there's a strong chance we miss out. But if we kind of creep over the line, we wouldn't go into it with a lot of confidence. But as you say, like, who would go in with a lot of confidence?
I think whoever gets seventh, I think if kind of
Chesterfield I think if Chesterfield or Salford kind of get in there, then they'll have a bit of form going into it, and they're both scoring goals at the moment. But yeah, I mean, we could be sort of playing Walsall in a playoff semi-final.
That's my kind of third question, really. Have you kind of pictured in your mind, because you've got quite a lot of flexibility where you could end up, is there one in there that you kind of think, okay, if we end up 5th, for instance, would we like this team in 6th?
I mean, I think
is it possible to do that, I suppose, in a way?
It is impossible to do. I probably looked at a little while ago where I was sort of more confident we'd at least be in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Now it's just, to be honest, a fear of missing out altogether means I don't like even looking that far ahead. I mean, I think stylistically, if we were playing Notts County in the playoffs, if we get in the playoffs and we meet Notts County, I think it's a good matchup for us because we always seem to do well against them. Those sort of more possession-based teams, that they really seem to struggle against us and our physicality. But that physicality has dropped off a lot recently, and I think partly we've got a core group that have been worked really hard this season. And Johnny Jackson's very much kind of, we want to be the hardest working, hardest running team in the division. And I think we're sort of seeing the negative of that now, where we get into the stage and some of our players are really struggling to compete physically a little bit. So it would be interesting if we played Notts County, whether you see a similar game than you did a while ago when we beat them 2-0 and really kind of played them off the park, or if we kind of struggle with that side of the game.
Tim, what would you put your finger on it then? What would you say you've obviously just mentioned about the physicality and that being a bit of an issue. What else would you put it down to? Your kind of slump at the moment.
I mean, the big thing is our attacking numbers have dropped off massively, like most of the second half of the season. So the kind of goal, if you look at, we've been pretty good defensively over the season, to be honest. We've not conceded many. We've got kind of the best defensive record in the league. But we got 35 goals in the first half of the season and 20 with the games played in the second half, and the like underlying numbers are very much in line with that. So we're sort of averaging just under a goal a game XG second half of the season. So that's been the big drop off. I would say teams have maybe sort of found us out a little bit. I think Josh Nerfield was a massive outlet earlier in the season. I don't think teams have sort of fully appreciated how much he had pushed on maybe from last season. He was such a big threat for us, and now he's been doubled up on. We're struggling a bit with that. We've shifted the formation around. Matty Stevens has often played as a kind of wide forward role, which doesn't suit him. He needs to be in the penalty box. Bugle, I'm a big fan of, but I think he's struggled from a long season and really struggled physically a little bit recently.
I guess the reliance on him as well, Tim, because you've had other strikers, but nobody who can do the same job.
Exactly, no one can do that. And, I guess the one at the start of the season that Jackson would have thought maybe is most like him is Joe Pigott, but he's a very different kind of player and really struggling at this stage of his career to kind of live up to that. The interesting thing, I think, is it's the third season in a row where we've had a big second half of the season drop off under Johnny Jackson. So there's a lot of talk amongst the fans, what's kind of causing that, and we kind of make, I think, the fewest substitutions in the league or give the fewest minutes to subs, tend to kind of put the same team out each week, and I think partly that's a little bit enforced. If you look at the depth and quality of the squads of kind of Doncaster and Port Vale, I don't think we're quite at that level. So I think we probably need to rely on some players a bit more. But I think we're certainly feeling that at this stage of the season.
Great stuff, Tim. It's been good to chat, and all the best for Saturday.
Cool. Thanks, Gav. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
Tim there from the Player Lane by Numbers account on AFC Wimbledon. Delighted to be joined by my next guest, which is Ryan, the Colchester United fan and YouTuber. Looking very smart today, Ryan. Good to see you.
Thank you.
How are you feeling about Colchester's sort of outside, I suppose, playoff hopes?
2 games ago, I was sort of sitting here thinking, do you know what? A 2-horse race going into for the last playoff spot between us and Grimsby. It's going to be an interesting last few games. But the past 2 games, there's no word for it. We've been terrible. Doncaster was a very, very long way to go to get, rightly so, demolished 3-0. Doncaster were a very, very good team. You can see why they are sitting top of the league. And then Saturday, I have no words. I was around the golf course, got back to my car around about 2:45, was putting all my stuff away, got to about 3 o'clock, thought, right, turn the car on, put the radio on, and then straight away hear them
like
saying
40
about
seconds,
a penalty.
wasn't it?
Like,
yeah.
Wow. Yeah, it was like, wow, we started quick. And then 2 minutes later, get in the car, Salford 1, Colchester United 0. And I was like, awesome. And then to be 3-0 down after 30 minutes to a team who we normally actually play quite well against, and we normally get a result, 3-0 down, it was at that point where we were sitting there thinking, like, that's it. Like, that's got to be it now. And then obviously Salford beating us brings them into the equation. Chesterfield starting to get some results brings them into the equation. So it's gone from being a 2-horse race to now being a 4-horse race. And I try to be as optimistic as possible. And for me, I like to say it's not over till the fat lady sings, but unfortunately, I think her dressing room's in Essex and she's warming up. So it's one of them. When we drew 0-0 against Crewe, and it was that game where it was like, is this the point where it's now done? And it was a very frustrating game because we just couldn't score a goal. Somehow their goalkeeper, Philip Marshall, was just wasting so much time and just got away with it. But we just couldn't score. And then in the past 3 games, only scoring 1 goal, that's not playoff form. It's honestly, I don't want to say it's down to just one injury of losing Lyle Taylor, but not having Lyle Taylor, not having Jack Payne, not having Jamie McDonnell for certain big games, i.e. the game at Bradford. We lost him against Donny quite early on. We didn't have him at all at Salford, and Danny even come out and said that with Jamie in the team, it would have been a different result. I don't like to sort of go, I'll just blame it on the injuries, because we have a 23, 24-man squad, and Danny has got the best out of some players playing in different positions. Like Jack Tucker came in as a sort of outsider from MK. The MK fans were sort of happy to see him go. He's came into us, and he's actually been all right. He's played in the defensive midfield as well, which isn't his natural position. He's a centre back, and he's done a job. He's done a job in that position. So I don't want to pull it down to the injuries, but they have made the end of this season very, very difficult.
But I mean, you look at the progress that you've had under Danny Cowley this season, you must feel like there's you've got a lot closer to being a good side at this level than you were 12 months ago. So you must feel like with another summer under Cowley, you can possibly make that next step.
100%, yeah. I saw a post on X, Twitter, whichever one you want to call it, and someone put on there saying at the start of the season, if you'd have said to any Col U fan that we're going to be on the last day of the season, could potentially still get playoffs, have one of our players in the EFL League 2 team of the season, and have other clubs higher up in bigger leagues coming in for our players and wanting to spend big money, we'd have ripped your arm off for that, because most Col U fans at the start of the year were thinking, yeah, we'll get playoffs. And there will be some that will be sitting there going, like, I told you we were going to get playoffs. But then there was a lot in the back of their mind that was thinking, just have this season to build, get away from the relegation zone, and then build on it next season, playoffs next season. But yeah, it's an incredible job that Danny has done. He's brought in the core players that he knows. He's brought in the players that have done it for him previously. He's brought in some hidden gems in Jamie McDonnell. So yeah, it is incredible the work that he's done.
I always feel like the real reflection of the progression of Colchester is in the attendances, actually, Ryan, because I've got quite used to seeing Colchester. We know about the challenge of that relocation from Layer Road to basically the outskirts of town with the CCS, as we'll call it, the community stadium. And I feel like you have a 10,000 ground where you're sometimes less than 50% full. It's gone way bigger this year. It's been so noticeable just how many more people are starting to come up. And I think that's testament to the Cowleys and the season they've had. And even if you do fall short, it really should be seen as a sign of progress, because I got very used to Colchester almost being a bit of an underperformer at this level, regularly just finding themselves looking down towards the wrong end of the table. And this year it's been spent looking upwards. And I would want to see that as a success, even if you do ultimately fall out on missing out on playoffs.
Yeah, to be honest, it now doesn't matter what happens with this season. Like you say, a lot of people coming into this was thinking, right, it's going to be potentially another relegation season. We're going to be battling again, and if Saturday's game doesn't go ahead and for some reason they say, right, we're ending it now, every Col U fan is going to sit here and go, what an amazing season we've had. And I don't think there'll be anyone that says that was a terrible season, unless they projected us to be automatics and was solid that we were going to get automatics. Okay, yeah, you could see it. But like you say, for a team over the last sort of 4 or 5 years, we've always been that team where at the start of the year, the content creators, they'll sit and go, Colchester, yeah, they'll do well this year. They've brought in X, Y, Z. And then we're bottom half of the table.
Normally from the Ipswich retirement home.
Oh, don't. Ipswich's B team. Ipswich's
West
B
Ham,
team.
West Ham youngsters and Ipswich reserves. That's basically
exactly.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is an incredible thing that Danny has done. And yeah, on the basis of the attendance, I've been supporting Colchester since I think it's about 2001. So I've been at Layer Road. I've been at a 3,000 attendance Layer Road, and it's been tight. And then I've been at the new stadium where 3,000 attendance, and you're like, Jesus, there's a lot of empty seats. In the last game when we played Crewe, the north stand has always been the away stand. We actually opened that up to home fans. We were actually selling out so much more. And the work that the BWA, they are Colchester United fans. They are just people that like me, sat in their bedroom and was like, do you know what? I'm going to do something for Colchester United. I love this club. I'm going to get them out there. We now have all of the flags in the stands. We've got flags all around the grounds. We've got boards outside of just like the history and everything like that. And they're just guys that have, like me, started in their bedroom and gone, I'm going to do something for Colchester United. And they are the ones that, along with the performances that Danny is putting on the pitch, the stuff they're doing off the pitch, it is incredible. If you just go onto X and just type in Colchester United BWA and just see the displays before the game, that's a League Two team. You're talking what you see Ipswich and what you see Liverpool and maybe not Arsenal last night do on European Champions League nights. We're doing that in League Two, and it's not just a couple of guys with a few flags. It's the whole of the South Stand, it's the whole of the East Stand and the West Stand, and they're just Col United fans that have gone, do you know what? I'm going to get a couple of flags, wave them, then a couple turned into 10, turned into 20, and now the ground looks incredible. And for any Col U fan, Layer Road is home. The JobServe Community Stadium is now starting to feel like home because of the work that Danny and that they have been doing.
I think you've been my genuinely my favorite story of the season. I've been following and seeing the pictures, and somebody put a post out maybe 2-3 months ago where it was the ground when it was what it was like 2 years ago. It might have even been a year ago, and to see what it looks like now and the pride in Colchester and also the performances that you had when you went on that run. I genuinely think you've been my success story of the season. It's just been really nice to see Colchester fans really excited about their team again. And long may it continue. I think, you're doing really well. So hopefully, fingers crossed, you can get over the line on Saturday.
I'll try and cross as many as I can.
Great stuff. Ryan, thanks so much for joining us. It's been great to hear your positivity about the E's, and I'm sure that'll continue regardless of the outcome of this season. So thanks so much for joining us.
No worries at all. Thank you for having me, guys.
Cheers, Ryan.
Cheers.
We will be joined by Adam Howard from the View from the Finders podcast of Grimsby Town in just a moment. But first, another playoff candidate, Salford City. We've had our representee, Danny, from the One Up Front podcast and from the Old Dead Tree fanzine on the Ammies. Here's what he had to say.
How do, Gab? Yeah, just putting a few thoughts together for the show tonight because I'm not available at the time of broadcast. So first thing, just looking at the teams that are also in the playoff hunt. We've got Wimbledon, Notts County and Walsall. And of those, Wimbledon, I've just always got this feeling that they just seem like a solid team that you don't particularly want to play. Notts County strike me, although they obviously doing quite well of recent times, they've just got a bit of an inconsistency that always worries me. I think they have improved the defensive record since last year, but I think on a one-on-one, I think I'd be all right against them. Walsall have got a touch of the Forest Green stroke Carlisle's about them that once your head's gone, hasn't it, really? So, because they were back-to-back relegation fodder. So, yeah, I'd probably like to face Walsall. I'm rubbish at the connotations of who finishes where. I mean, we're technically in a playoff place now at Salford. If we win on Saturday against Carlisle, who are already down, could make it harder. They're already down because they might just think, well, bugger it, let's just give everything. Or they might be already on the beach, so to speak. I don't know. In terms of how we're going to play, I've been looking, I would say in the last month or so, that we're definitely looking to dominate territory rather than possession. So we're massively looking to push our defensive line high up the field. If you look at our average position in our last game, we had Curtis Tilt, who was the only one who seemed to be anywhere near his own half, just straying inside the centre circle. The other 10, on average, were in the opposition territory. So that's something that Cal's working on and looks to be successful against the last few opposition that we've actually played. The one thing I will say is that unlike some appearances I've made on local radio talking about Salford, I think around the Accrington loss, we looked like we were a spent force. We looked absolutely knackered, and that's not been the case in recent games. We look like we've had a bit of a second wind. I do think Cal probably waited a bit too late to start rotating players. I do think that shock to the system against Accrington was the prod for him to try and move a few of his players off the bench and into the starting lineup, at least for a short period to freshen things up. But Minogue's looking good, as is Kelly and Mai, as is Osama Ashley, and also Matty Young. So I think they're all going to be, excellent performers throughout the playoff hunt and possible playoff final. The one thing I will say, though, as I've already mentioned, that there is the also downside that once you get past the joy and the celebration of going up, being a natural worrier, I'd be thinking, well, what next? Does it make the club less financially viable, strangely enough, because it's gone up a league, because with higher wages, the increases, I imagine about 25% or whatever it would be for existing players who are moving up to League One. I think our cost base would increase, and I don't think our income base would improve that much. So I just don't see the surrounding area having that much more juice to take in terms of bringing more people in the attendances. So would we actually be making more of a loss in a high division? My theory is yes. Also, I would add that the way we're being coached now to dominate games through pushing teams back and dominating territory, what use is that by going up as a probably sneaking in the back door League 2 team going into League 1? What I'm trying to say is that going to be of any use against teams that are just naturally better than you, have recruited better than you, and are more established and have higher budgets? Would we just get whitewashed? And hopefully not, but it is a possibility. Come down into League 2 the following season, and then, let's really hope not, then stroll back into the National League and maybe right down the hill that we rolled in on. So that's my thoughts. Hope it makes sense, Gab, and hope you have a good show.
Danny's take there from the One Up Front podcast and the Old Dead Tree fanzine on Salford City. One thing I do
just
think...
checking Salted our 7th, right? Because he sounded like the 19th. He's full of positivity, that man, isn't he?
Yes. One thing I did agree with him on, though, is that I actually think there is a chance that Carlisle... I think they will put in a good performance, Carlisle. I actually looked at the numbers on this. Teams who play their last home football league game in the last 6 seasons, 12 teams, none of them have lost. I think it's 7 wins and 5 defeats. And a lot of the time with the outcome confirmed before the match. So I think that there's something about that occasion, the last football league game, that sort of gets fans up for it, and there's almost like a willingness to kind of embrace the occasion. So I've also with the Mark Hughes thing at Carlisle as well. I think fans are going to want him to stay, so I think there's going to be a good a lot of support for that. So I actually think Carlisle are going to put in a performance. And I just wonder about this Salford City side. They've got plenty of ability, but can they stand up in that high pressure moment? That will be my question mark.
It's that individual game, isn't it? I completely see your argument. Or I would also say, though, I think Salford have had a couple of these in the last few games where you've wondered, this is the kind of tester, and they have passed them. I mean, that Colchester win is super impressive. Super, super impressive. And look, the table will take whatever form on Saturday. If we stopped right now and ended on 45, I think I'd have salted my playoff pick, just because of the more than the other three teams that are in there at the moment. And Salford coming in with a lot of confidence. I really do like the personnel they've gone. It's a bit of a story for them, actually, because people forget they had a really terrible start and they were down in sort of the 20th odd position and kicked themselves on, had a really strong end to 2024, actually briefly sat in the automatic places around early January time, and have since dropped away a little bit, got themselves back into more the playoff conversation, and now in the driving seat to get that, albeit they've got to get past, as you say, a little bit of a test in Carlisle to come, where maybe a point's enough. Wimbledon might do them a favour and hold Grimsby at bay, and they've got a 15 better goal difference than Grimsby, in which case they're in if these two end level. So I think they're in with a good possibility, and I'd be intrigued to see Salford in these players to get there. I want to kind of echo Danny's point about talking about next season, which is a little bit getting ahead of ourselves because there will be a summer window to come, of course, and these teams will make changes. But he's absolutely right. Whoever does win these playoffs is going to be the immediate favourite to relegation in League One next year, just because of that division. And the fact that realistically, with this season we've looked at not really looking at any of these and saying they're going to do a Stockport or Wrexham. They will all probably be in that relegation conversation for League One. But summer recruitment, let them have their chance to actually build their squads and then go from there.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's hear from Adam Howard from the View from the Finders podcast before we bring in Danny from Rambling Rovers on Doncaster. Adam, thanks for joining us and waiting. Just wondering.
You're very welcome.
Just wondering how the mood is for Grimsby Town at the moment, because you've tended to respond well to setbacks so far this season. It is 4 without a win. On the one hand, you've been getting into good positions in games. You've had those 2-goal leads at Harrogate and at Port Vale. Unfortunately, you haven't been able to hold on to the victories that would have cemented a top 6 berth for you.
Yeah, well, first of all, Gab, I'm a bit annoyed with you, my mate. I'm a bit annoyed with you because straight after that MK Dons game, I promised myself I wouldn't talk about Grimsby much this week. I'd just put it all to the back of my mind. I'd relax, I'd chill. And then about 3 hours ago, I'm cooking tea. The text message comes through. Will you come on?
He does that. He does that, Adam. It's always when you're not ready. It's always when you're doing something. He just times it amazingly.
Yeah, I'm there sorting the meatballs.
I do it on purpose, Ed. I've got binoculars around your eyes.
That's no euphemism, I'll point out. I was cooking. Right, anyway. However, yeah, it's been a peculiar season. There's been games like the Swindon game where 2 or 3 games ago where we're absolutely hammered 4-0 at home. We look really poor.
Who was the opposition manager again, Adam?
Yeah, we won't talk about that. I mean, their whole coaching setup, obviously, with Holloway and then Big No and Gav Gunning and even Mildenhall's the keeper coach. But yeah, it was always going to happen, wasn't it? But yeah, we've had so many ups and downs this season that I just give up trying to call it. There's been times where you think, yeah, maybe we are a promotion side, and then we go and get hammered, and then we'll go on a mini run of losing. You think, yeah, we're in completely a false position here. We're a mid-table side that's got a bit lucky, and then we go and win a few again. It's just completely give up. But we are, as a Wimbledon, who we face on Saturday, both limping towards those playoffs, aren't we? It's like, I mean, it almost feels a bit like a couple of drunks that have had a cracking session. The barman's said, whoever can call the last orders, whoever can get to the bar first, well, you can have a bit of a lock-in. And we're both sort of limping desperately towards it, picking the odd point up, and it's who can grab onto that bar first. And so yeah, I genuinely can't call it, Gab. I really don't know what's going to happen to us.
Chris feels the same about the automatic promotion race.
It's been that kind of season in League 2, Gab. The only thing that's looked certain is the relegation zone this year. That's literally it. That's all we've seen. Adam, can I pick your brains quickly about some team selections because they've intrigued me a bit with Grimsby?
Of course.
Switched to goalkeeper last couple of games. Eastwood's the right. And also, I think Cameron McJanet, maybe a bit injury playing a part in this with fitness, but also him out the back 3. When I figured in my eyes, he's kind of one of the most integral ones, someone like Rodgers alongside him. So I wonder if you've noticed, first of all, what the main reason for that goalkeeper change has been.
Well, the goalkeeper change, we've been switching keepers a few times this season. Obviously, we started, Eastwood got the horrific injury back in September, which I'm not sure how much you know about, but he landed on the goal, basically, and there was a part of the goal stuck out, bit of metal stuck out the goal, and real nasty injury. Jordan Wright came in, and has done okay, but more and more recently, there's been question marks growing over him, and I think the Swindon debacle, hammering at home, was almost the final straw. There was a couple of moments in there where he pushed them out into the danger zone when you felt it was any Football League goalkeeper should have been doing much better. You're pushing it to the side or even catching it. So there's been question marks growing over Jordan Wright. His distribution's quite poor as well, and the way we try to play, the passing, the David Artell, the football, he's not the greatest with the ball at his feet and kicking. So I think Artell made the brave move before Port Vale away to put Eastwood in, and it seems to have worked. He's had a couple of good games, and I say it's a brave move because of the time of season that it is. If we had a lot more of the season to go, I'd say, well, yeah, Jordan Wright's having a poor spell of form. We've got another lad on the bench who's got a bit of League Two experience. Give him a go. But yeah, I thought fairly brave move. As for McJanet, he again has had a really good season with us, but he's had a long old season, obviously coming over from Ireland. He's played a lot of games, and I think injuries and tiredness have just caught up a little bit there. And the problem is Warren, who's come in to replace him in our back three. So we've got Warren, Tham, and obviously Rogers playing now. Warren's come in and done a really good job in these last couple of games. So it's
despite being a right footer on the left.
Yeah, despite being a right footer on the left. Yeah. So it's a bit of a dilemma, but it's one of those lovely dilemmas as opposed to some of the dilemmas we've had, especially in the attacking this season, where we've been struggling injury-wise.
It must have been annoying to be without Abiku, because it kind of felt like Rose and Abiku was the pair, and we've had to see Lucas sometimes played in Barrington. I think Vernon's played last couple up there. It's not really felt like a proper strike force recently.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, around the turn of the year, it was Rose and Abiku looked fantastic together up front. They were forming a real good partnership. I remember going to Morecambe away, and just the pair of them linked up so well, and we beat them 3-0, I think. They start merging, don't they, these games? We just look really good with those two up front. But yeah, again, injuries, and it's been, I mean, poor old Danny Rose must feel like he's playing striker speed dating sometimes, because the lad up top with him just seems to keep changing throughout the season. It's Cam Gardner 1 minute, Donovan Wilson the next. It's just it rotates, and obviously now we've been going Vernon up front, who's just come back from a long injury himself.
He'll have to think of another conversation starter, won't he?
Exactly. Yeah, think of something outside of the box. What you got, Danny?
Yeah.
But I mean, Abiku is coming back again. It's another dilemma. Does he go with that in this last important game, and potentially last important games? Hopefully, it's plural. Mm-hmm. But what I would say is the class of Danny Rose. It doesn't matter who he's been up there with. He's been Danny Rose all season for us, and led that line and got us the 14 goals that he often gets, and has been the quality striker that we've loved and enjoyed these last couple of seasons.
Chris, I don't know if you've seen Grimsby play Bradford this season once or twice. What have you made of them in contrast with last year's strugglers?
I think, in fact, we've played them 3 times this season, because we played them in the League Cup as well, so I was over for that game. I think I seem to remember. I think we beat you 2. I think we beat Grimsby 2-1 at Valley Parade, and they were quite a positive team. I think that was around the time when their form started to pick up. So
no, I tell you what, I think you beat them 3-1 in January, but I think you lost 2-1 at their place in August, which was one of Grimsby's best performances of the season.
Yeah, that was right.
That's right, because it was around the same time as the League Cup game.
Yes, yeah, that's right.
Which went on for the penalty shootout that went on forever. But I have, to be honest with you, though, I have watched Grimsby a few times. I watched them against Walsall. Seeing as I might as well have a Walsall season ticket at the moment. And I thought it was a really dominant performance. I think Grimsby showed that they wanted it much more than Walsall did. I, at the time, did start to think, I think that there are going to be certainties for playoffs. I think, obviously, a couple of results, as you mentioned, against the Swindon was probably quite a surprise, not just... As well as Swindon has been doing, I think it was probably a surprise at that scoreline. But I guess it's just whether Grimsby can get over the line. It's crazy to think that it's come down to this. And for you, Adam, I hate to say it, but if you don't get over the line, you've got to see this as a disappointing
Oh,
season.
come
right?
on.
Chris, it's going to be the highest finish in the league 20 years.
I don't think it's just that though. I think that it's the fact of how the season has been stemming out. It's like literally in the last few weeks, it's kind of falling apart a bit. I mean, personally, what do you think, Adam? Would you see it, or would you agree with these two?
I think I would more go towards the other two, I'm afraid, Chris. Simply because of where we were last season. When
Well, you've been
Arsenal
2
came
years, I'd
in,
say.
yeah, we could easily have been relegated out the Football League again. And I know we've spent most of this season flirting with those playoffs, but it has still, I don't know whether this is just because of how Grimsby have been over the last 20 years or whatever, but it has almost felt a little bit like a false position. It's always felt like we're probably going to finish 10th and we'll be quite happy with that, which probably says a lot about the Grimsby mindset more than anything, Chris. So I know what you're saying. Because we've become so close and it's still in our own hands with a game to go, it is going to feel disappointing walking out on Saturday at 5:00 if we haven't made the playoffs. But zooming out, looking at the bigger picture, looking at the last couple of years, we're progressing, we're improving. And most of our squad that you would want to keep under contract next season. Yes, there's a couple of loan-ins, Abikwu being the key one, and Denver Hume is out of contract, and that will be a big loss for most assists in the league. But the core of our side are at a good age, still under contract. So, yeah, I'd still be fairly positive, fairly pleased. I mean, our midfield three, who on the awards night, on Monday night, mopped up the awards, are all under contract still. In McEachran, who's been wonderful this season, got Player of the Year. He's only 24. He's got another year with us. Evan Corey at 22 got Young Player of the Year, obviously scraped into Young Player at 22. And Kieran Green, who got Goal of the Season, because obviously his goal at Harrogate, where I was in the ground, I had to get a map out to see where he'd scored from, I think. It was. So there's a lot to be positive about, there really is. So, yes, it'd be tinged with disappointment.
Okay, I'll tell you what then, Adam, let's flip it on the other side. If you get into the playoffs, are you going to win it?
Need to know they're playing first. Could be you.
Yeah, I mean, we all want Walsall, don't we? We all want Walsall, which obviously would work for you, Chris, because that's you celebrating on Saturday night, mate, isn't it? So best of luck. But 2 legs against Walsall, I think everybody would back themselves at the moment. So home and away against Walsall, and then a finals are often a coin flip. I know that's such a cliche to say.
But it's true.
And we're so inconsistent this season. We could turn up at Wembley, get walloped 4-0, and everybody will think, wow, the heck did they get there? Or we could have one of our
You need to get back, who was the lad who got that clincher when you went up from National League against Forest Green? Was it Arnold? Arnold?
Bogle.
Bogle.
Nathan Arnold, sorry.
Nathan Arnold, that's what I'm thinking of. I think
Forest Green one. Yeah, sorry, I'm going more recent. Yeah, I'm all over the place there. Yeah, Nathan Arnold, yeah. Actually, my just on that, my youngest, I've got a 3-year-old who does this mini Mariners kicks football training session at the moment, and Nathan Arnold's daughter goes to it. So I occasionally stand and chat to Nathan Arnold on a Saturday morning. So
why did you go to them lot?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Adam, it's been great to chat to you, and hopefully catch you at Blundell Park on Saturday.
Can I just very, very quickly before I go, Gab?
You're not going to put on a Russell Slade mask again, are you?
I'm not at all. No, not at all. I'm going to shamelessly plug something. Keep Chris happy at the moment. So, a few from the Findus have released some T-shirts. All profits are going to go to the Grimsby Town Foundation, which is the charitable arm of the club. The artwork that is emblazoned on the back of them is by the talented Alex Shilvers. They're lovely T-shirts. The sun's cracking the pavements. So Grimsby fans, even if you hate our pod, I'm sure you'll love the T-shirts because they are fabulous. So if you could donate to a good cause, buy yourself one, that'd be amazing. Chris, best of luck for Saturday.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Sincerely mean that. I always
Great
enjoy my
stuff.
trip to
Yeah.
you, though. Take care.
I'll
See you
grab
soon,
myself
everyone.
one of those t-shirts. Cheers, Adam. Take care.
Thank you ever so much, everyone. Take care.
Cheers. So we will be joined in a moment by Simon Ward from Walsall Fan TV. But beforehand, just wanted to chat to to one of the automatic promotion chasers, Danny. What am I talking about? To two of the title
I was going to say,
title
Gab,
candidates. I need to get it right, don't I?
you do.
Two of the title candidates, Doncaster, Danny from Rambling Ravers of Doncaster, and Scott Picardy Breezer of Port Vale. Good evening, gents. Thanks so much for joining us. Danny, starting with you. I mean, you must be absolutely over the moon to have secured automatic promotion last week.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we was talking on it other week, weren't we, us lot? And we all saw our running service end at season, and you could say arguably we had the hardest running of everybody. But yeah, we've come out trumps. It's just like, just been amazing. We just seriously stepped up in the last couple of weeks. You could say we've had maybe Tranmere, but they were kind of battling to stay up. So a 3-0 win at their place were pretty impressive for me as well. Molyneux's first career hat-trick. And then obviously we took Colchester to bits, at home, 3-0. And obviously Chris on Saturday, Bradford at home, you just knew it was going to happen. Billy Sharp, it was just rhythmic stars for him to score that winner. Everybody knew it was going to happen. But like I've said, I mean, a couple of weeks ago, if you said, "Oh, we'll hit form at right time. This is the time you're going to hit top form," I would have gone. I would just laughed at you. To be fair, because me and Danny Nice, Daniel Nice, who comes on here also. Yeah. Me and him have probably been the two most positive people on Twitter about our chances, and it's a bit justified, but. Yeah, I think on Saturday when we take on Notts County, I think we're just going to go into our game and just be like, right, we're promoted. This is a free hit for league title, to be fair. So we're not going into it with a lot of pressure.
Scott, just from your point of view, I mean, another great achievement for Port Vale securing promotion. Never in doubt from my point of view. I was backing you all the way. Yeah, you must be delighted.
Yeah, I think I'm still on cloud 9, to be honest. I'm just really, really glad we've done it almost the easy way.
Has anyone found Lawrence Halai yet? Because I think he disappeared on Saturday, didn't he?
Yeah, he's been marked safe from his night out in Burrs.
Okay, that's right.
Night out in Burrs, to my knowledge. So, but yeah, it was. He didn't even know where he was or what day it was. Bless him. It was brilliant.
Yeah, I mean, how are you feeling about Saturday? Because it's going to be a great occasion, isn't it? One way or another, whether you win the title, but even not having that home game against Gillingham, having won promotion, I think it's a late, isn't it? Vale Park, so it should be a real carnival atmosphere.
Yeah, exactly. So I think depending on sort of how many sort of sales Gillingham get, we're looking at around about sort of 13,800 in the building, which is absolutely fantastic. It'll be our biggest gate since like the late 1990s. It's going to be a carnival atmosphere regardless of the result, and I think it's been confirmed today as well that there'll be a trophy lift either way because the runners-up get a trophy as well as the champions. So I know, like I say, it's almost feels like kind of rewarding, not rewarding failure, but rewarding mediocrity in a sense, doesn't it? But either way,
for me, it defeats the purpose of having a title. I feel like you've got to have
third get one.
Yeah,
I don't think third get anything.
Yeah,
was it?
Yeah,
it's like a dog bowl.
Yeah. So much less fanfare about finishing third, I think.
Right. So, do you feel like Darren Moore has shown the potential to build something special at Port Vale going into League One and beyond?
Yeah, I think you can't help but be excited about it. Just looking at the calibre of player that he attracted sort of in the summer and in January, you've got to think he's got to go out and do it again. And there's a lot of players out of contract at his previous clubs that he may well be speaking to. So, there's a lot of excitement about who he could potentially bring in. I think we're going to be really, really ambitious with our recruitment next year. And we really need to as well, because ultimately it was sort of failures in that department which sort of led to us being relegated to League Two in the first place. So obviously I can't stress enough that the club really, really needs to get this right. But before that, I mean, we've got a free hit on Saturday, and it's going to be sort of a real party atmosphere at Vale Park. So, I think everybody's going to be looking forward to it, and we're going to be looking ahead to next season with plenty of optimism. But also, I think, there's a little bit of responsibility on the players' shoulders that, we've got so many floating fans in here. Let's get them hooked. Let's put on a bit of a performance and, make sure that they're sticking in it for the long haul, because ultimately, in League One, to be competitive, you've got to grow your fan base. And I know an average of around about 7,000 that we've achieved this season is good, but, you've got to grow that. You've got to be constantly looking for that organic growth to sort of push forward and try and challenge at that next level.
Yeah, absolutely. Danny, do you have a similar optimism about Doncaster Rovers? Because since Blunt was removed, it seems like there's been more money coming into the budgets over the last couple of seasons. Is there some optimism for you that will give you a better chance in League One, or are there still question marks over people like Gavin Baldwin, the chief executive, and the like?
Gavin's actually done pretty well. It's you're on about David Blunt, who got removed, who was just draining the life out of the club. We were 18 months ago, we were sleepwalking into National League, and in the last 18 months, from Terry Bramall, the owner, to Gavin Baldwin, chief executive, and Grant McCann, they just ripped the blueprint of the club and just started again. And we're just seeing the fruits of that. There's other media people saying what a well-run club we are now and how far we could actually go, because we have literally, like I said, Grant McCann's already come out already and said, if you think we're going to settle just for a relegation fight in League One next year, then think again, because we're going to push for it, For me personally, I'll love just to stay 14th or something, just to consolidate ourselves, But we all know what McCann's like. He's got history in League One. I mean, he's won promotion twice, I think, at League One. So he knows that.
He definitely won the League One title.
There's some real calibre of managers coming up this year, isn't there? Especially Brad to do it too with Alexander. There's some good bosses in that league next year.
Yeah,
from these three.
And I feel as well I reckon Bramall will back us as well. So, I won't say we're going to spend like 3 million on a player like Birmingham City, on a Premier League striker. But I feel as though we'll certainly be competitive. I'm not saying playoffs or all like that, because too early to talk about that stuff. Nobody knows summer transfer business and stuff like that. But I feel as though we'll be competitive. Mid-table for me. I'll be happy with that. 14th. Just stick on that.
Absolutely. Well, listen, gents, we wish you both the best luck for Saturday, and enjoy your days.
Yeah, good luck, Scott, for title, mate.
Yeah, like I say, it's going to be a free hit for both of us, and with it being out of our hands, I mean, it's just one of those where we're just going to go out and enjoy it. The one thing that sort of puts me a grain of doubt in my mind, even with sort of Notts County playing for something, is that Doncaster's away record is so good. So, yeah, like I say, may the best team get the title. Obviously, best of luck to yourselves, and like I say, we'll both be in League One next year, so let's just enjoy it.
That's it, mate. Same to you, mate.
Hopefully see you boys there as well.
Yeah, fingers crossed. Good luck to yourselves as well, Chris. I think with you being at Valley Parade last day, it just tips the odds in your favour. So, yeah, best of luck.
Yeah, cheers, guys. Really appreciate that. So delighted to be joined by my next guest, which is Simon Ward from Walsall Fan TV. Simon, head-to-head with Bradford City on the final day. As much as
Notts County, thank you. There is an outside chance.
That's true. Outside chance. I was there on Saturday, Simon, and the atmosphere I mean, I really felt actually for Matt Sadler at full time, because I think, given the brilliant football and incredible results that parts of this season have produced, I'm not sure whether he quite deserves the extent of the vitriol that's been directed his way. But clearly, Walsall aren't in the have a sort of fragile confidence at the moment, and it's going to be. You're not in the best shape. Neither are Bradford, by the way, but not in the best shape going into the final day.
Yeah, it's Saturday was a game that we absolutely needed to win, and yes, we did play better on Saturday, but it's a results business, and we just failed again, really. So we're going into the playoffs. Very little confidence going into it as we currently stand. I put a video out yesterday saying about what Matt Sadler needs to do and change, but he's been very resistant to really making any major change. So there's not many are expecting a change. If he was to change things, change formation, it'd shock everybody, particularly the opposition, and maybe would give us a chance. But I think playing the way he has done with the players he has played, the players are all exhausted, all lacking confidence now. I can't see us getting the result at Crewe. But you never know.
I mean, Crewe are not in great form at the minute, to be honest with you. And I know, is it no wins in 13 for you now? Is that right?
That's it. You say Crewe are in bad form, but so were Harrogate, Newport, and Accrington.
Yeah. I mean, it was a worldie, to be fair, as well, was the goal. Absolutely.
Well, this is the other thing. Like, if you look at Walsall's last 3 games, granted they're nowhere near as good as they were in the first half of the season, but I would still argue that those performances have probably merited a lot more than the 2 points that you gained from it. And if you even had one more point, you'd actually be in the pole position going into the final day.
Well, if Oshin McKenty could use his head rather than his hand, we would be in that situation, wouldn't we?
Exactly.
Yeah,
and so some of it is Matt Sadler, and I accept that he has to take some responsibility for that. But I also think there's an element of things going against him, like times where you've been the better teams in games and the opposition have just scored out of nothing and completely changed it. And I do think I do have an element of sympathy for that.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think the 2 goals that Cheltenham scored late on against us, that sort of knocked confidence a lot. The Colchester winner at Colchester, again, that was another superb strike. And as you say, some excellent strikes have won it for teams against us. But if we look back to last season, Walsall were on the edge of the playoffs and blew it in the last few games. And we've done the same. Obviously, an extended run of blowing it as such. But I mean, we've had the same problem again this year. So I think the adaptability of a manager to change things when it's not working is a strength that he's not shown. He's sticking to a format he's happy with and he's comfortable with, and he's just not changing it when it needs changing. So so that's something that's pointed at Matt Sadler not having a plan B. And on our fan chats and on our fan post-match reactions, that's a common theme. Where's the plan B? We can see it needs changing. He doesn't change it. We've got Danny Johnson been sitting on the bench.
Oh no, you're not going to claim that Danny Johnson should be starting, are you, Simon?
I'm not saying he should be starting, but I'm saying he should be getting more minutes. If Danny Johnson
he's just a finisher. He's just a finisher, Simon. He doesn't offer. He can't get him behind at any point in his career. His link-up play is quite a low standard at this stage. I don't really believe that Danny Johnson getting more minutes would have made a difference. I think the issue is, as much as I would probably argue for Levi Amanci getting more opportunities, I think the issue is that just those striker options to pair with Jamil Matt, who himself looks a little bit jaded as a result of relying on him so heavily. I just don't think the quality is there.
I think I understand what you're saying about DJ, but he does get himself into positions to finish chances. And Walsall had so many chances in the last few games, and we just not finished them off. And Danny Johnson in the last 13 games, if he'd have had 20 minutes a game, we'd have had more points and we'd have been up.
Yeah, I
But
don't mind that view either. I don't mind that view either, Simon. Like I said, I've been pretty much watching every game, and that has been a big problem, is that you've had nobody to put them away. Manchi, I quite like him, to be honest with you, but I don't think he's done enough, or he's a bit jaded by around this. If he's starting the game, he's usually jaded by about the 70th minute, and that is usually when he's coming off. But I don't mind what you're saying. I think that you probably do need that DJ, certainly in even if it's for 20 minutes to go. And it's funny because now you mentioned him, I was like, oh yeah, I've not seen much of DJ actually coming on or anything. He doesn't seem to be getting many minutes.
The other player, the player we bought in to replace Nathan Lowe, Ethan Wheatley, very young, raw, and he had a bit of a shock coming into League Two, the rough and tumble of League Two, as it were. He was introduced, thrown into it pretty much because of the Jamil Matt injury against Bradford. And then he sort of got taken out of the team and forgot, really. He's another player with his pace and finishing ability. Again, I think either him or DJ should have been used more often. When we bought Ellis Harrison in at the end of the January transfer window, I thought that is a perfect player to bring in to support minutes for Jamil Matt, because Jamil Matt was playing virtually every minute of the game. Bringing Ellis Harrison on last 15 to sort of rest Jamil Matt, keep his legs fresher. I think, but he ended up starting both of them. So he got two strikers who are not particularly quick up front, which is an issue.
Of course, you're going to have issues occupying defences I think I don't know what. I think the hope would have been that Ethan Wheatley could have been the low replacement. Whether it's a chicken and egg thing where he struggled to adjust to the tempo initially and then didn't get the opportunities, but then him not getting the opportunities was also part of why he didn't gain that kind of sharpness. And could it have panned out differently if he'd had more opportunities? Yeah. But I don't know. As much as I would maybe question some decisions, I also don't know if there was a perfect open goal answer for Matt Sadler. I think any decisions that he made would have had its pluses and minuses. So, I think it's a tricky one. I really do.
The thing is, because it's happened again after last season.
But last season was also your highest finish since at least 2020.
Yeah, things are better, but when you have like 12 points clear at the top of the table, and you try to get by with draws, and you get caught out, confidence drops, and then you're in trouble, and you have to change it. And we've always said this, that good managers are brave. When things aren't going right, they'll go, hang on, I've not got this right, and they'll make a change. And Matt Sadler just won't do that. And that's the problem. That's the problem.
I mean, I think it was his strength in the first half of the season, and I think it's possibly become a weakness in the second half of the season. So,
the thing is, when you're working on a formula, when a formula's working, obviously, don't tinker too much with it, like Darren Moore did. Don't tinker with it too much. But then you get to a position where you got to keep players fresh. And he's overplayed Connor Barrett and Liam Gordon. Now, you guys know left wing back position is the most demanding position on the pitch. And those guys, apart from suspensions, have pretty much played every game. That's including the cups.
Yeah.
And Nathan Asimwe has looked very good when he's come in recently. But he arrived in January and didn't get a start until Connor Barrett got suspended. He didn't. He had one cameo, I think it was, before that. But I mean, Liam Gordon was absolutely shattered. And I was talking with Stephen on it, and it's sort of the one game, 5 minutes into the game, and it was like he looks worn out already. And then he went off on international break recently. Played 2 games in Bermuda in the space of a week, and then came back straight into the first time. Like, he's a very fit lad, but it's ridiculous that he's not giving him a break. And then you look at contribution from wing back. I think he's got 2 assists, maybe 3 assists all season. So he's hardly a player that you can't do without.
Although I suppose a lot of it's been cutting inside and getting Taylor Allen on the overlap. But yeah, that does make a lot of sense. Chris, with that in mind, how are you feeling about the final day? Because Bradford City, not to the same extent, but certainly yourselves have suffered a drop-off in form. Yeah, are you feeling a bit apprehensive? I think it might be 1 win and 8 for yourselves.
I think you have to be, don't you? Because we've both been stuttering across the line. Luckily for us, Walsall have been on similar form.
Been worse, yeah.
Do you know? I mean, I think it's just crazy because we've both been doing each other favours for the last 10 games or so, and no team can get a hold of that. You know, where I look at where we were 5-6 points ahead of Port Vale and Doncaster, literally 6 games ago. And to see that, see how far they're ahead. So apprehensive, yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of nerves going into Saturday. The only thing that, for me, that keeps me reasonably confident is our home form, where, bar the game against Tranmere, we've been incredibly, I think we've been very good. We have played teams off the pitch. Notts County gave us a good game recently, to be fair. But other than that, our home form has been very good. This is just typical Bradford City, though. This is such a Bradford City.
I was waiting for it. I was waiting for the line.
It's a Bradford City thing to do. So, we were all expecting. It's sad when I'm listening to Donny and Port Vale talking about how they're going to enjoy their day on Saturday. I'm not until hopefully with 3-0 up or it's full time, but. Listen, it's just been such a bizarre League Two season where anything that could happen has happened, and the games that you expect people to win haven't been winning. Think about when we were talking about this months ago. I think we were all talking about, Walsall have promoted, Walsall have won the league. We weren't even have a conversation with them because we simply said they're going to.
I did that. I titled a podcast episode "Who Gets Autos" in brackets, probably with Walsall.
Yeah,
and I included all the badges, and I didn't include Walsall's. So it's hard to avoid it, but it has been a very disappointing drop off for them, and I do understand why.
You're not kidding.
Fans feel a bit disillusioned with it for sure.
Yeah, and that's just I feel for the Walsall fans, if I'm honest with you, because of the kind of fall away. However, there is 1 game to go, and they're still in the hunt. There is
weirdly, Chris, even a draw could get Walsall up.
Yeah,
that's the mad thing.
Absolutely, because I think their goal difference is maybe 6 or 7 ahead of ours.
It's too better.
Yeah. So this is the thing, and I suppose obviously for Walsall fans, they're feeling pretty disappointed. But all I would say is that football's a funny old game.
Do you know what
though?
I wonder. I think it would actually be a really odd atmosphere if Walsall did get promoted at Crewe, because on the final day, full time, there was a section of fans who booed and chanted for the manager out, which I'm not sure I entirely agree with. Everyone's entitled to their own different position. But I think that a lot of bridges have possibly been burnt on both sides between Walsall fans and Matt Sadler, to the point that it's not really like they could the idea that they could go back a week later and all celebrate together. I don't know how easy that is. So it would be very interesting to see how both sides kind of play it if that did happen. So,
yeah, absolutely, and I think that you obviously you can see that with Walsall fans, and rightly so. I think that they are frustrated.
Oh.
The form in the last half of the season has been nearly relegation fodder, hasn't it? So. No winning 13. Is it mid-February when Walsall last won a game or something like that?
They had that wins, didn't they? And then haven't won since. Yeah,
and they haven't won. And I think it might even be when we beat. I think we were probably the team that when we beat 3-0, that was when it changed. But that I get that and I understand that, and potentially in the summer there is a decision to be had with Matt Sadler whether he needs to go, but. Still opportunity here, yeah. I know for you, Simon. I know you're quite gutted about it all. But there's still 90 minutes to go, and this season is just it's bonkers.
The
Anything
neutral
could happen.
observer in me wants a Bradford loss, a Walsall draw, and a Notts County win, so they're all on 75, and that would send Notts up on goal.
That would send Notts up. Yeah, that would
be quite fun for me.
And that's something
Not
that
for
I
you
haven't
two,
ruled
that's
out
different.
as well. Ed, that's something I haven't ruled out. That's something that I genuinely am slightly worried about that will happen, and that would just be the typical ending of this season, wouldn't it? That Notts County are the one, and then Walsall and Bradford going to the playoffs. And I think we probably both would say neither of us are very confident about the playoffs whatsoever. I don't feel confident with the playoffs. I think that if we were in them, I don't think we win them.
No, nobody in the playoffs is going to feel confident.
This is a fascinating.
That's a fair point.
We have
However, you know what I'm saying?
teams at the top end of this league, and about half of them are depressed and just not enjoying the season. It's utterly bizarre, this division.
It's the crazy season.
You're in the top 3, Chris, and you're not enjoying it. What is wrong with
I'm absolutely hating it. I'm absolutely hating it, Ed. I said this on my podcast this week. I said, I'm absolutely hating the season. I said, give me mid-season mediocrity again. I'll be much happier. Listen, I could go to the game on Saturday and just enjoy it. Unfortunately, there's been lots of sleepless nights where I'm also having to watch 2 games because I'll be watching the Walsall game, I'll be watching our game. So it's not an hour and 45 minutes anymore. You know, I'm watching both of those games stressed out. I'm ready for a break from football, guys. Give me mediocrity again. I'll be happy with that.
Oh God. Right, I think that just about wraps it up. Thanks so much, guys. Simon, really appreciate you joining us for your views on Walsall. Thanks so much to Chris from the 1911 podcast, co-hosting Bradford City Perspective. Thanks so much to Ed Walker, our excellent co-host, expert on all things fourth tier. Thanks to all our guests. Thanks to you for watching at home. Subscribe to EFL Debate on YouTube and on Spotify if you enjoy what we do here. Excuse me. And we'll see you again for another League 2 podcast sometime soon.